Hello and welcome to Love Samantha Lee, the More Than Just Pretty podcast. I'm your host, Samantha, and here we explore love, life, spirituality, and relationships through the lens of real beauty, the kind that begins the moment you decide to be unapologetically yourself. Join us as we dive into heartfelt discussions that challenge, inspire, and connect. Are you ready to embrace your true self? Let's begin. What's up, family? It's your girl, Samantha Lee, and y'all, right before I get on these things, I really try my very best to pray and to really ask God what he wants me to say before I say it. And so, as I was sitting here wondering, like, okay, God, what do I need? What lesson did I learn last week that I think somebody else needs to hear? And a lesson popped into my spirit. So there's a couple things. Story time. Let's get into it. Last weekend, there was somebody that was popping up at my house, and I was afraid. I didn't know what it was, but it was actually somebody trying to deliver something to me. I was nervous. I was scared. I didn't know what it was. Like, I'm thinking worst case scenario. Got me in a tizzy, right? After that, something happened with my nephew. He ended up having something that, like, scared me. Not anything like that, like life-threatening or anything like that, but it scared. It unnerved me because it wasn't something I was familiar with. It was a situation. And there was something else right before that. I can't really place it. I can't think of it right now, but there was three different incidences. And in those three different incidences, family, I'm not going to lie to you, I lost sight. And when I mean I lost sight of God. I lost sight of focus. This year has been a year where I've been very intentional with my thoughts. I've tried to be, at least. I've been more mindful of what I meditate on. I've been practicing visualization. I've been trying my very best to see the things I want to see in my life. And even when negative things occur in my life, I try my best to speak life over those circumstances. Like this morning, I went to the gym, y'all, randomly, and I was carrying my daughter's stuff in, and my water bottle dropped. I don't have this water bottle, y'all, for it has to be, y'all know water bottle. If y'all watch my YouTube, y'all know water bottle. I don't have water bottle has to be 4 years. Has to be. Water bottle broke. I'm like, what is going on? But, immediately in my head, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get another water bottle, and I'm going to have a water bottle that says Superstar on it. Because I believe this year is my rocketing year. This year, that is what I am. That is what God is speaking to my spirit. And I'm going to speak life into me. And it's a new opportunity. That water bottle was for that season, and I'm speaking life over it. It's just the end of that season. I got that water bottle towards the beginning of my journey on my own, and now it broke. And so this must mean that that's the end of this journey. And I received that. I'm looking at it from a different perspective. You see how I reframe that, y'all? You see that? That's what I've been trying to do. I'm trying to not allow the storms of life to overwhelm me. But I found that when things got really bad, when I say when things got really bad, I mean when I was dealing with the person popping up at my house, and I didn't know what it was about, and I was thinking worst case scenario, like someone trying to sue me, what's going on? Like, I'm thinking crazy thoughts, and then I'm processing, what's going on with my nephew, what he got at school, and I'm like, what is this? I've never experienced. I don't know what this is. I'm just going through so many different thoughts, and I'm freaking out, and I'm like in a panic, and I'm breathing heavily, and I'm y'all, to the point that I'm triggering my lupus. Okay, for those of you who don't know, I got cutaneous lupus, and I'm having hives. My feet are swelling up with hives. My hands are swelling up, which means it increases my appetite. So I'm dealing with trying to be fine in 2025. My appetite's increased. I'm stressing out over these situations. And I'm like in the heat of the moment with these unforeseen battles, I'm not able to manage my emotions enough to keep focused on God, to get into a space of visualization, to start praying. I was sitting in a sermon yesterday, and it really touched me because Pastor was talking about he's in a series called Goated, and he's talking about the kingdom's way is our model is Jesus, and he's teaching us how Jesus kind of conducted himself on this earth. How did he move? And one of the things he was saying was that Jesus took intentional time to pray, and that his prayer was not just prayer. His prayer was a part of his sowing, right? And sometimes we look at sowing like work and consistency and hustle and grind, but praying was a part of Jesus's hustle. He worked, he took time, and he prayed. And so one of the things that, Pastor was talking about was, okay, when things are happening, we have to pray. When we're trying to, in the midst of us working, in the midst of us speaking life and affirmations and doing this and visualization, part of the biggest thing that I need in order to accomplish the vision that God has given me is to pray. Jesus understood that need. And so in order for us to do or to accomplish not even a fraction, but whatever God has called us to do, we need God to do it. God doesn't, y'all, what I've learned, and I'm going to try not to get too excited on this thing because it was an epiphany that really resonated with me. God doesn't give us dreams that we can accomplish on our own. If you can accomplish on the dream on your own, if you can do 1, 2, 3 step and you could do it on your own, the dream isn't big enough. All right. And God has given me some big dreams, family. Big dreams that I know I need God for, that these dreams have to be put on my heart because of him. These desires have to be put on my heart because of him, because there's no reason why I want the things that he wants. I understand certain things. There's things that have been revealed to me that I get it now. Right. And in me understanding those things, I now have to, instead of getting in a panic, getting in a tizzy, getting my physiological body all over the place, I had to then take intentional time to retreat and to pray to get the strength to do what Jesus has called me to do. The only way Jesus in his natural body, in his human form, was able to do the things he was able to do is pray. That was a part of his sowing. And so, y'all, when that hit me, yesterday, as I was sitting in church, and I'm like, okay, what does this mean for me, God? And it, bam, clicked, resonated. That yes, I'm working, and yes, I'm doing everything I know to do, and I'm visualizing, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and there's a part of the puzzle that I need to be more intentional about, and it's not just praying when I'm in the valley or praying when I wake up in the morning, but praying when things hit the fan and I don't know what to do. And I find myself praying in those moments, but I'm not really praying. I'm just talking to God. I'm just venting, but I haven't released anything to him. And one thing Pastor had talked about was praying until it releases. And that's something that I don't do. That's something that I haven't done very well. I get anxious. I get caught up. I'm thinking the worst thing. And I live there for a period of time until I get to some type of mental resolve. And then I can calm down and get to, go about whatever business I have. But going back to the story, when Peter comes out the boat and he starts to walk on water, it says he saw the wind, but you can't see wind, but you can feel wind. And when he sees the wind, quote unquote, he falls. Some of us are stepping out on faith, stepping out of the boat. I know I am. Being very vulnerable. I'm stepping out of the boat, y'all. I'm taking chances. I'm swinging for the fences. I'm believing God for a lot. And as I'm stepping out of the boat, these circumstances that have come into my life have caused me to see the wind and to lose sight of God, to lose sight of Jesus. And that's what they were meant to do. The enemy sends these things to steal, kill, and destroy. And he was successful in those moments where I, for a moment, am caught up in anxiety, trying to figure things out, trying to do this, trying to do that, allowing myself to get lost in my emotions. The point of this podcast is for those who want to walk on water, just like me. Water walkers in 2025, where you know this is your year. You know God is speaking to you in a different way. You feel like chapters are ending, and you feel like new beginnings are starting. I'm talking to the water walkers. This season is not a time to play around, family. This season is a time for us to be intentional about everything that we do, everything that we listen to, every way that we go about things. And life is going to life. And when you become more intentional like I have, more things arise. I've noticed that in this new year, as God has called me to stop doing things and limit my time on this and limit my time on that, I've noticed how the enemy has gotten more creative in his attacks to get me off focus. He knows he can't get me away from God. He knows he can't get me away from my allegiance to my God. I love God. But he knows he can get my focus because he can send something into my life that distracts me from purpose. Some of you guys are right there with me. That the enemy, that you get clarity from God. I've had moments just being transparent. I'll sit in front of God. Like I have this little whiteboard that I write all my prayer requests on. And in the mornings I sit down, and at night, sometimes I sit down in front of the prayer wall and I talk to God. And there's been times, especially in the morning, I hear God audibly. Like it's like I hear him in my spirit. I can't tell you what it sounds like, but it's like he reveals things to me. And it's like I have peace about it. I'm like, oh my gosh, like how would I have known that? Like, and then I question myself because of some of the things that come to my mind or come to my, like, it is actually scary sometimes. Because sometimes some things are like, that doesn't make sense. Like I'm thinking to myself, like, that's crazy. Like, how did you know that? Or what are you thinking? Or where did this come from? Like, I literally have thoughts like that when I come for my prayer time. But there's a peace that comes with it. There's a clarity that comes with it. Like, oh, well, that makes sense. Wait, hold on. And in as soon as I second think the thought that I just had, I'm doubting. Like, God couldn't have told me. God didn't tell me that. That can't be God. That's what? Was that God? That can't be God. That wasn't God. Like immediately I start, was that me? Was that God? I don't know if that was God. Maybe that was me. Maybe I was, and you immediately start to, the enemy's so strategic because you immediately start to second guess yourself. Immediately start to wonder if you really heard God the way you thought you did. Maybe that was you. Maybe because sometimes our desires, God is aligning things up to where it's aligning with your desire. Like your dreams are coming true and you're hearing God tell you these things and he's giving you a clarity on purpose. And you're like, wait, hold on. That can't be it. No, that's me. That must be what I want. And you start to second guess God. And then you're going back and forth, like doubting God all the while getting clarity from God. And we see this in the Bible. We see this with Gideon, right? We see this with Moses. We see this with just different people. David, right? David was told he would be king. Joseph was supposed to be the head, like he knew he was going to be in position of authority. And his brothers at one point are going to have to literally kneel down before him. Like, he knows these, like, God has given him those things. Those are good things. Those are things that were foretold. So it's like I could think that, and it's me. Like, I'm thinking this. Right? Like, Joseph's brothers thought that was him thinking he was better than them. But that was God letting him know, no. I'm giving you that position for a reason. They don't even understand this. But the reason why you're going to lead them is because I can trust you. The reason why I'm giving you this type of power is because I can trust you. The reason why I gave you that dream is because I can trust you. That is why you're being elevated. That is why your physical appearance is changing. That is why I'm taking you to the next level, is because I can trust you. That, yes, I gave Saul the position of king, and he looked more like a king than David did at that time. But at the end of the day, Saul got caught up in selfish desires. Saul got caught up in selfish ambition. Saul got caught up in ego. David, in his time of testing, stayed humble, stayed faithful. Right? Joseph, in his time of testing, stayed humble, stayed faithful. Right? Abraham, in his time of testing, stayed humbled, stayed faithful. They weren't perfect men, no. But they were faithful. God could trust them. They weren't perfect people, but he could trust them. And he gave them visions. He told Abraham he'd be the father of many nations. He told Jacob, you go to 12 tribes of Israel will be your descendants. I mean, he was giving them, like, these are things that they could naturally think. They were thinking it. They could question God and say, God, did you really say that to me? Because this is something I could think to myself, because that's such a beautiful thing that's aligned with my dream for myself. And they could get into a place of, like, wrestling with God about whether or not this is true. I want to encourage you today. Sometimes we think that what we want and what God wants are in completely different pages. We think that, and sometimes it is something we have to obviously test it against scripture. Like, why, what, how. There are things that I've wanted and prayed for, and I know that it's my selfish desires, or there's selfish things within me or whatever, and it's not doing anything for the kingdom. Sometimes it's not God, right? But sometimes God gives us a dream, and God gives us an understanding as to why, because it has something to do with furthering his kingdom. Every position he gave these men had a purpose for kingdom. And although their dreams were them being uplifted, them being in positions of power and authority, them really being, these are like dreams anybody could have. Being a king, ruling a nation, being an incredible warrior. Like, that's a dream anybody would have. Anybody would desire that. But he gave that to David because David, he could trust. David, he knew, would be faithful and would continue to make sure the tenets of what God wanted as far as the law and how to be worshiped, he knew those things would continue. That he would make sure that his nation, the nation he was ruling, would stay faithful to God. So although David was uplifted, God's purpose was uplifted. And I know y'all might be listening to me like, I hope this is making sense. I really do. I'm saying this to let you guys know that some of your dreams are not just there for no reason. Some of your dreams are there because God put them there intentionally. And the enemy, one of the main ways he attacks us is the first thing he ever asked Eve in the garden was, did God really say that? Did he? Did God really say that? That's the first way the The enemy deceived us. In the Bible. Did God really say that? He didn't say it like that. That's not what he said. He said that, but he didn't mean it like that. He questioned if she heard God correctly. That's how he does us, to confuse us, to keep us in patterns and cycles so that we never reach purpose, so that we stay stagnant. We stay in the wilderness and never reach the promise or our promised land. I want to encourage each person today. There's a lot of things I said today, but there's a couple takeaways I want you at the end of this message to have. The first point that I made during this whole thing was making sure that whatever storm of life you're going through, that whatever you're feeling doesn't get you off focus from God. That as we get closer to promise, the enemy gets very creative. Don't let it stop you. Stay focused. Pray. There's nothing that's happened in your life that you couldn't handle. Nothing. Number 2, understanding that there's a purpose in all things that we're going through. And there's a purpose in the dream that God has given you. And if it aligns with God's purpose for your life, it's from God. That the enemy's job is to deceive you and to get you out of alignment so you never achieve the purpose that God has placed in you and on you for a reason. Don't let him. The main thing the enemy tries to do is to let doubt creep in. Make you question if you really heard God correctly. And number 3, your emotions. Speaking life. Sometimes when we get into emotions, what we tend to do is allow those emotions to have a voice. Those negative emotions to have a voice. And they shouldn't have a voice because those emotions keep us, a lot of times we're speaking those things over our situations. Our words have power, family. We've got to watch what we're saying. We've got to watch what we're thinking. We've got to be intentional about what we are meditating on and what we are thinking about. In this season, God has made me adequately aware of how important it is to take inventory of what I am meditating on. If you are meditating on the things that you don't want to happen, if you're meditating more on the what ifs and the hows and I don't know, and instead of dreaming and thinking more about what you're hoping for, what you're praying for, thinking about those things, you're going to stay in a negative place. I want to challenge you today that when those thoughts come up to distract, to get to a place of, okay, no, I'm not thinking that. I'm not thinking that. I'm thinking this. No, I'm not going to let you, devil. Nope. I'm thinking this. If the enemy is telling you this, nope, it's got to be the opposite. If the enemy is telling you the devil speaks in the tongues of lies. Somebody needs to hear this. The enemy speaks in the tongues of lies, right? He is the father of lies. He don't know how to tell the truth. He knows how to deceive us in ways. So anything he's trying to convince you that you are not, anything he's trying to tell you that you cannot accomplish, anything he's trying to tell you that, oh, you're not going to get married. Oh, you're not going to have a relationship. Oh, you're not going to be successful. Oh, you're not going to accomplish a dream. Oh, you're not going to make that kind of money. Oh, you're not going to have the kind of family. Oh, you're not going to, anything he's telling you you're not, you know he's a liar. He's the father of lies. Tell him he needs to go back to hell where he came from, because at the end of the day, there's a God that's got a purpose and he's giving you a desire. Right? And that desire is for a reason. It's not just for you, for your own selfish ambition. We see what happens with that with Saul. It is for the furthering of the kingdom. But do not allow the enemy in any area he's trying to discourage you, any area he's trying to make you feel like you're less than, any area he's putting the most, I've heard this before, the area that you're feeling the most discouraged in is usually the area that God is going to use you the most in. The area you're feeling the most pushback, that's the area that God is going to use. That's the area that God is going to use in your life. That's the area that God is going to bless in your life. But the only thing that's stopping you from you reaching whatever potential, whatever purpose God has on your life is you. 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 Take inventory, family, and get out of your own way. Thank you for spending time with us on Love Samantha Lee, the More Than Just Pretty podcast. It's been a privilege to share this space with you, where we celebrate being unapologetically ourselves. Hope today's episode has encouraged you to embrace your own unique beauty and the beauty in others. Don't forget to follow us and join our community on social media. Share your journey and your insights, and let's continue this conversation. Until next time, remember, real beauty starts with you being true to yourself. I love you, family, and I'm going to talk to you soon.